Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. In the last part we started off tier 5, I think, and now we're heading on to the final normal level in the game, Buglight, which I believe is named in direct reference to Bud Light, a beer I will never drink because I don't like beer. I think it tastes like earwax and piss mixed together. For being the final standard level in the game, at least out of the normal set, there's nothing too much to worry about here because it's just another one of the Egyptian-themed levels, though it's the one of the few that's like mostly outside. With that said, it does have a core mechanic that the other ones didn't, and that's the namesake. Eventually in this level we're going to start finding fireflies littering dark hallways. In fact, that's going to start coming up here. You can progress through the level without the fireflies completely fine. With that said, you won't be able to see shit, so you won't be able to see bottomless pits, enemies, hitboxes, more or less anything moving forward in the level, making progressing without them pretty dire, so always make sure you have one. With that said, like the Uka-Uka masks in the similar level in Crash 1, and even the similar level in Crash 2, the bugs do have individual timers, so you need to always be progressing, otherwise you're eventually going to be left behind, and then you have to progress completely in the dark. And that's no good. Now, keen-eyed viewers might already notice that we have a blue gem path right ahead, but we can't take that yet. Well, we can, but it's a dead end for me right now, as that is the equivalent to the one-stage latent Crash 2. I think Wrath of Cortex have it. I think basically every Crash game after Crash 2 has it, now that I think about it, where that pathway requires you to have all 5 colored gems in order to finish it. And you can progress pretty far with what we have right now. I think we're only missing the yellow gem right now, and we still can't grab that yet, barring a glitch, I believe. And thankfully, if you decide to go there now, it's not a complete trap, as there's no checkpoints along the way, so if you die, you just start over. Unlike in development, where I think there's even like a screenshot of this game in a magazine that shows that gem pathway. I think during the yellow gem portion of it, even, where there's just not where there's a checkpoint box that's not there in the final game, so you didn't get stuck. Easily the most dangerous part of this level, if you're just going through it, though, for getting the box gem, is this secret pathway, or rather the bonus round. As the timers on the bugs here are particularly strict. Use the belly flop to your advantage here and try to keep a good pace going, because if you're not careful, this guy will say goodbye to you probably right around here. Thankfully, outside of that section, I don't think there's a bottomless pit here. What there is nitros you have to look out for, and that's no good. If you get stuck in the dark here, just try and use your ears to see if you can hear anything that's dangerous ahead of you and try and jump over anything that might be. Otherwise, Death Tornado Spin is your best friend. Oh, there's the last 3. Yeah, that's the jump. I don't think I've actively seen what that jump is supposed to look like in years, because I'm always in the dark for that section. The timers, I feel, are a little bit too strict, honestly. And a weird little bug about this level, sort of, in the Insane Trilogy is, I think the Insane Trilogy added a single box to this level, which is an out-of-bounds nitro crate, so I guess if you tried to, like, just take tank hits, you couldn't beat the level without hitting the nitro activator, which I believe is still along the main path anyway, so I find it a little bit redundant. Either way, thankfully, the nitro, either way, the level itself, if you're keeping a good pace, is relatively safe. I would say it's safer than the equivalent in Crash 2, even, because you at least have the Fruit Bazooka to smooth things along with nitro crates. And actually, no, I think it just straight up is easier than the equivalent level in Crash 2. And with that, that is all 5 main levels down in Tier 5. Time for the boss fight, and what is, by and large, the final boss. I say by and large, because if you check the pause menu, I think we're only at about 40 to 50% completion. More on that in a little bit.
I'm sorry. This is the part where I'm supposed to be angry, full of rage, incensed beyond belief. Once again, you have outsmarted and outspun my best henchman. I should be rather upset, shouldn't I?
And in fact, we're furious! But it seems you have overlooked one small detail, you little orange delivery boy. Now that you have gathered all the crystals, all we have to do is take them from you! Crash Bandicoot for the last time! Give the crystals to me!
Alright. Final boss of Crash 3, technically, is still against Cortex and Uka-Uka. With that said, it's a bit of an odd one in that, for most of the fight, in fact the entire fight, Aku-Aku and Uka-Uka are just having it out as a hazard. For instance, if you touch this laser, you die. In the meanwhile, Cortex is going to try and fire his gun at you, as he has since Crash 1, and eventually he'll throw some mines. But when he throws mines, his shield goes down and you can actively attack him. At that point, he gets stunned off his little hovercraft, and you can knock him into the center hole down to the time spinner, whatever the hell the name of the thing is we're in, down below, to do damage. Phase 2's Aku-Aku Uka-Uka attack is a little bit different, where they just sort of go in a figure 8 formation around the room. The annoying thing with this fight is, to me, I'm very... My ADD, I guess is the way I should phrase this, kind of kicks in here. And because of that, I'm constantly paying more attention to Cortex than I am Aku-Aku and Uka-Uka. Because I've had several playthroughs where I just get hit by those two doing their own thing while I'm focusing more on Cortex. And Cortex can do the exact same thing. Because if you're not paying attention to him, he might accidentally throw a mine right onto your face and kill you. I've had that happen to me a lot more than I'd like to admit. Phase 3 is arguably easier than Phase 2, because the Aku-Aku Uka-Uka attack for this phase is they occasionally just home in on top of you and do a little beam clash of sorts, which then causes a bigger than you'd expect explosion. My main strategy for this phase, stick in either corner, usually opposite up from Cortex, and then just move to the opposite corner, and then when Cortex throws the mines, hopefully one doesn't land on top of you, you can spin into him and end the final boss like so. Pretty easy. But we do get a power-up for this. The speed shoes. Hold R2 to run faster. I'll talk more about what this is for, mainly next part, because that's when that whole process begins.
Defeated again? This is not fair! Maybe I should retire to a nice big beach with a nice big drink and a woman with nice big bags of ice for my head.
It's not over, Bandicoot. There are still the gems. We still have a chance to triumph.
Surprise, surprise, a Crash game has a bad ending if you don't have everything. And unlike Crash 1 and even Crash 2, Crash 3 plays it a little bit differently in that unless you are like super good at the levels, you actively really can't get everything until after you've beaten the final boss, at least safely. So we still have a lot to go. Oh, hi, Mark Cerny. Honestly, the final boss isn't too bad, but if you're just not good at focusing on both targets at once, you're probably going to get killed more by one than the other, and that can lead to some problems. With that said, though, we're not done even for this part, because once the credits end, we're going to go right into revisiting, I believe, Gone Tomorrow. Because now that we have what we have, namely the green gem, we can take care of the extra gem in there. The only thing that stands between us and getting the true ending right now is the few gems that remain, the few hidden levels I haven't gone over, and the time relics, which are relegated to the time trials that unlock once you revisit a stage after beating it. And technically speaking, I've done that. You've even seen the clock that triggers the time trials on screen before. I just cut out the cutscene that has Aku-Aku talking about the time trials until we actively discuss them and the times required to get at least the sapphire relics you need to beat the game. Because you need to get at least the minimum time on those to get 100%. If you want to get max 100, max percentage though, which is 105 in this game though, You need to do a bit better than that, and again, I'll be talking about that next part. Also, Crash 3's got some good credits music. If there's anything I will compliment about Crash 3 over everything else in it, I love this game's soundtrack. It's really good. And honestly, I'm sort of not looking forward to recording the commentary for the next part because not only is that a lot of information I have to go over, but the next portion of the game, if you're going for 100% at least, and if you're not just going to stop playing here, is why I think Crash 2 is ultimately the better game, even though I did the equivalent to this next section in Crash 2's Insane Trilogy remake, because I have brain spiders and need to get platinum trophies for games I really like. I'm working on Yakuza 4s right now. Goddamn many games suck. Especially Pool's physics, because the physics in billiards are still as broken in Yakuza 4 remasters as they were in Yakuza 3. With that, though, let's now revisit Gone Tomorrow to get the 2 gems in here, because this is a process. With that said, like I brought up when we were here the first time, you need to make sure you do some specific setup in this level when going for the box gem. As there is an exclamation point crate we're going to trigger on the green gem pathway that will make certain boxes appear even this far back. The big thing you need to do is, like I mentioned in the main level, don't destroy the arrow crate coming up right here. Leave that for later. And when we're at a certain point later on the level where there's clearly some aligned crate underneath a platform of iron crates, don't destroy the TNT crate there because you're going to need to use it when we're on the green gem pathway. And honestly, this is one of my least favorite levels when going for the box gem just because of how the thing is handled. Here's the TNT crate you shouldn't destroy, by the way. Because when you include everything, including the bonus round and the green gem pathway, Gone Tomorrow sort of becomes Crash 3's Cold Hard Crash in terms of just the amount of backtracking you need to do in it. But for different reasons than other levels at the same time, because the green gem pathway in and of itself, I think is the shortest gem pathway in the game, barring maybe the one in Buglight, but that's more for, that's a bit of a different circumstance as it is. Either way, welcome to the green gem pathway. And I believe I actually do show off the speed shoes here, the crash dash as I like to call them. I think even sequels start to call it, where if you hold R2, you run. I think it's about double, maybe even 2.5 times the speed of Crash's normal running speed. I'm not entirely certain of the math of it. Also, I'd like to note one thing I was laughing about while researching the LP. The Crash wiki pulls very much a Kermit nodding, Christian Bale nodding gif moment here for this level, where they indicate that this particular gem pathway is colored green to indicate it is that of the green gem. Okay. Although it would have been funny if they kept this gem the original intended gem, because this was originally going to be, I believe, the purple gem pathway in development, but they changed it to green gem because they change a lot of things like that. And there is the first clear gem, and here's the crate we need to hit in order to cause other crates to spawn. And because of that, we're now going to be jump cutting across the level a little bit because the green gem pathway takes us back to the arrow crate I was talking about earlier. So now like we can hit these two, but I'm going to be jump cutting back to the TNT crate in question. As we just saw this next section fast forwarded, you don't need to see the rest of it fast forwarded again. I think you can also technically use the Fruit Bazooka to hit those two crates, but I can never remember if that's my memory tricking me or not, so I always err on the side of caution and use the TNT crate. But that said, once you do that, the backtrack is the biggest annoyance here because the rest of the level and its crates are pretty simple to grab, I feel. With that said, don't die because checkpoints are pretty lax at this point in the level. So if you die, I think you have to do the green gem pathway over again, even. But still, that's the clear gem, and that's Gone Tomorrow, all done, barring its time relic. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 9, the time trials begin. See you guys then.